Hello, welcome to the introduction to the Care Advisor Award. I just want to spend a second introducing the network, the Care Advisor Network. We were formed in 2011 and registered in 2015. We're a learning and development provider. We have members, we're endorsed by Skills for Care, and our members provide a wide range of advice and support services. So a number of professionals, all dedicated to later life care, and we concentrate particularly on later life care in England. Our aims are to promote a standard to the advice that people get and to join those professionals who provide that advice, regardless of whether it's a small part of their service or whether it's the specialist advisors. We're here to support you and to help your ongoing learning and help you provide advice to your clients. The award is part of one of those aims, obviously, to promote the standard of care advice that people receive when they're having to make those choices. And it's an independent qualification. So the idea is that it provides a clear pathway for people who are having or faced with these decisions, so they can find somebody who's proven that they understand the system. The system can be quite complex, especially when you're having to deal with care needs of a loved one, and they need advice from somebody who is specialist in that area. There are three parts or three levels, if you like. We're going to concentrate today on the level 3, the actual online exam. The bronze, the level 1, is an online module. It's just an overview and introduction to care advice. There is no test or exam that goes with, with that bronze, that level 1 standard. It's just a 1-hour online introduction. It's very basic. It could be used as a refresher as well, but it's not intended to be an advanced level. We are developing a level 2, the silver level, and that will be kind of the sit between the two, the intermediate. We're going to introduce case studies, and that again will be an online model. An online module with a workbook, an online workbook, so a little bit more detailed in level 2, and it will be more of a practitioner's perspective. We're hoping that'll be ready in May. It's a stepping stone, if you like, to the level 3, and that's what I'm going to concentrate on today. So level 3 is the actual Care Advisor Award. It's an online exam. The links and the slides I'll make available to you. There is no course to this. Once you've logged in, it's a one-time access, and you can take it from anywhere. You can log in from anywhere where you've got an internet signal. Who's that for? Well, it's for anybody who's supporting care needs or giving information and advice. Advisors, whether you be financial advisors, solicitors, whether you be brokers, personal assistants, it could be providers themselves, estate planners, it could be paraplanners, and specific advice agencies. And it's for anyone, whether that their role is, even if it's a small part of the service that the overall company provides, it's for anyone who provides information and advice on choosing and paying for care, for adult care in England. How long is this going to take you? As I say, it's a one-time access, so please have 3 hours ready, uninterrupted if you can. The first section is a multiple choice section. There are 50 questions. I'll give you some examples in a moment. And the second section is a case study element, and there are 2 case studies picked at random. You will have some guidance questions for each of the case studies. You don't have to answer the guidance questions, but they will give you an idea of the marks that are awarded and therefore the detail that is required by the assessor when they're looking at your response. And you submit your response online. You can type it into a Word document and upload that, or you can type it straight into the screen. What will you be asked about? Choosing and funding care for adults in England. So the types of care that are available, potential housing options, the resources that might be available to somebody who's choosing care and support or needs some care and support, whether that be independent living or whether it be in a more permanent arrangement, including access to help from local authorities, maybe NHS, and how to raise safeguarding concerns. And then when we look at the funding care for adults, we'll be considering benefit entitlement, NHS, so health contribution, financial contribution towards the cost of care, how the local authority might contribute, and then how you access that care for an adult in need, and how to raise safeguarding concerns, deprivation of liberty concerns, and then how to facilitate access to specialist advice, so whether that be financial advice or legal advice, regulated. Some of you will be regulated advisors, some of you will be providing unregulated advice, and in fact regulated advisors probably providing a bit of unregulated advice as well. So this is a little bit more of a breakdown of the syllabus. So the first part, the paying for care element, and I won't read that through, but as you can see, it's about your understanding of the way that the way that the local authority or health, the public purse, if you like, contributes towards care, and also how people could contribute towards pay for the care themselves, so self-funders, and when they need financial advice or the access to financial advice to be able to consider all the products that may be available, because of course unregulated advisors can't do that. It's about knowing your barriers really, and bringing in the other professionals when it's appropriate. So choosing adult care, so understanding the housing options, and the types of care that might be available, so keep helping somebody to remain independent, as well as looking at more permanent arrangements for care, and then using other services, how you might be able to effectively signpost or refer to other relevant services and what those services will look like, and understanding the barriers to accessing care advice, and indeed how you may give that. So given that somebody that a client may well have problems with communication, etc. So understanding the barriers and your boundaries too. So what the extent of your service, and importantly, how you work with others to be able to provide that. So the first section of the Care Advisor Award, the online exam, is the multiple choice section. You have an hour, there are 50 questions. You probably won't take an hour. If you don't take the full hour, that time will run on, so you will be allotted a 3-hour time period. So if you don't take the full hour for the multiple choice, it means you will have a little bit longer for your case study, but you won't be allowed any more than 3 hours, and it will be logged along the way. So you will get the result of your multiple choice section as soon as you've submitted all your answers, so you'll know whether you've passed or failed that element. You will need 75% to pass the multiple choice section, and indeed the case study section too. But the case study section, the case studies are submitted for assessment, and then they are independently verified. And so you would give 2 working weeks. We would expect to have the results back from the case studies within 2 working weeks. So, but you will have your multiple choice section results almost immediately. So just to give you an idea of the type of multiple choice questions, they may be a multiple choice with a single answer. They may be a multiple choice with more than one. You might have to do fill in the missing word. This one is a true or false, so there'll be several true or falses in there, fairly straightforward. Just answer true or false and then click on to the next page. The next page just means the next question. There is a question on each page, so just keep clicking through until you get to the end. You'll see the progress bar at the side when you're actually live online. You'll see how many questions you've done, how many you've got left, and you'll have a summary of your progress as you go along. So this is just an example of one of the multiple choice. And actually this one is asking you to choose who pays for which for those things. So continuing healthcare, it will ask you to choose between the NHS or the Department of Works and Pensions, and so on and so forth. And you'd need to answer all 4 of those and then move on. Here we have a missing word. Pension credits, a means tested benefit for people who are over the women's state retirement age. And there you've got to select one option. What does EMI stand for? This is an example of a question that's a little bit more detailed. So the multiple choice section is deliberately not intended to be too difficult, although the level 4 is equivalent to diploma level. This one's a little bit more detailed. So many of the questions you will find relatively easy and straightforward. 1 or 2 of them you're going to have to give some thought power to this one. So as you can see, it says here Mr. Jones has £20,000. His wife has 10,000 in her name and they hold 10,000 in their joint. Mr. Jones has recently been assessed by the local authority and he needs permanent care. His wife will remain in their jointly owned home, which is worth approximately £250,000. How much of the above capital or savings will the local authority include in a financial assessment? Well, it's quite clear, isn't it, that question, although a multiple choice question, is trying to determine and assess your local authority charging knowledge. So it comes back to the fact that the Care Advisor Award is an assessment tool. It's an assessment of the knowledge that you already have. So the other 2 elements are a little bit more learning, and obviously we have learning and development in our members area and regular webinars and training sessions to help support you to get to this stage, mentoring, consultation, etc. and so forth. But ultimately the exam is the assessment of your knowledge. So of course we would say here, wouldn't we, Mr. Jones is being assessed as an individual and therefore the local authority can only assess his own ability to contribute financially. So we'd halve anything that's held jointly, so 5,000. And if clear, you'd need to know that if his wife is remaining in the property, it would be disregarded. So that's a bit of a red herring there. We don't take that into account. So he's got 20,000 of his own and 5,000 in the joint. So the answer would be C, because of course the local authority won't assess Mrs. Jones's savings and they won't take into account the value of the property. So you can see there, that's very fundamental for you, but you can see there that they're assessing your knowledge of local authority charging. That multiple choice section, I'm sure you'll find relatively straightforward. The case study one, though, this is the one, if you're intending to do this award, I would suggest that you there will be 2 case studies. And my advice would be to make sure that you don't get carried away with the first one and throw the kitchen sink at it and run out of time for the second. Keep an eye on your time, allocate yourself an hour or a little bit more if you've got some time left over from the multiple choice. Allocate yourself an hour for each case study and use the guidance questions as your framework for your answers. You don't have to answer the questions in order. You don't have to answer the guidance questions, but each case study will give you 5 and we'll have a look in a minute and it'll explain the marking system. So I'll read through this because we'll obviously all read at different speeds. So this case study is an example and it's very similar to something you may well come across. So going back to what you'll be assessed on, it may be welfare benefits, it may be NHS contributions, it may be the local authority, how they charge, it may be self-funders, it may be the accessing financial advice and legal advice, any other specialists' advice that might be appropriate. It could be that it's choosing care, so the types of care available. So this one is, this lady is living with dementia in a specialist residential home. She was discharged from hospital very recently, actually, just been there 5 months, and she's reported as settled. Care needs are met at £7.50 a week, and she's paid the full cost for 2 months. So 2 months out of the 5. Her daughter Judy contacts you because the Department of Works and Pensions have written asking her for an overpayment of the lower rate of attendance allowance to be repaid. Mrs. Atos doesn't have capacity to make financial decisions, and her daughter Judy has registered lasting power of attorney for finance and property. And she tells you that she's requested a local authority assessment and that that's going to be next week. Mrs. Atos has 17,000 in her bank and a property worth 250,000, which we're presuming here will be empty because she's moved into a residential home from hospital. And she's renting that to her grandson and daughter-in-law, both early 30s, for £400 a month. She's had a recent bank statement showing 4 weekly payments, 670.40 from the Department of Works and Pensions, and a private pension of 111.66 a month. So you're getting the flavour for Mrs. Atos. She's no longer able to live at home, although we still as yet have the local authority assessment to confirm eligibility from a charging perspective from the local authority. We will presume for this case study that she's going to remain in that residential home. The grandson moved in quickly, didn't he? 5 months, sorry. So these are your 5 guidance questions for that case study, and you can see, we'll go through them one at a time. You can see that they're allocated marks. So just looking down quickly before we address actually responding, you've got 5 marks for the first one. Why could Mrs. Atos have paid the full cost for 2 months? Explain how the local authority will assess her care and support, 4 marks. Explain her property during the local authority financial assessment, 5. How may an overpayment of a tenant's allowance be created? 1. Explain DOLS, deprivation of liberty safeguarding. Who would apply and outline briefly the process? So 4 out of those 5 questions are requiring some kind of detail, and number 4 is fairly straightforward. So there isn't one there for, say, 8, 9 or 10 marks. So you're not going to have to concentrate on one question specifically for a length of time. One question over the other 4 isn't requiring a significant level of detail, but they all want a little bit of something apart from number 4. So going back, why could Mrs. Atos have paid for the full cost of her care fees for 2 months out of she was in the care home for 5, wasn't she? So 3 months has been paid for. Well, I mean, we'll look at these briefly, the answers potentially to these briefly, and we're going to suggest that potentially she could either have been already assessed for continuing healthcare, and that could have been reviewed at the 3-month stage, and it could have been withdrawn. She could have, given the recent times, given COVID, it could be that she'd been discharged with some COVID funding up until the autumn of last year, or it could be that she's been moved into a step-down bed, or it could be that she's in a discharge to assess bed, although that would ordinarily would be for up to 6 weeks potentially, but any one of those things. So either way, I think as long as you respond by saying, you know, the public purse has clearly paid this for 3 months, and we would be looking at whether it be continuing healthcare or whether it be whether she's still yet to be assessed. We know that the local authority is assessing her next week, but we don't know if she's been assessed for continuing healthcare. So I think what they're asking for there is continuing healthcare possibility that it's been reviewed and withdrawn, or that they haven't assessed it yet. So I think that's the response there. Explain how the local authority will assess Mrs. Atos's care and support needs. Obviously, they're asking you to suggest here the legal aspects. So they would definitely, the assessor will be looking for note of the Care Act of 2014. They'll be looking for the principle of well-being, 4 marks. So definitely the Care Act, definitely well-being. And I would suggest that it wouldn't do any harm to put in there that they would have to assess the care and support needs before any financial assessment is done. And you know, the eligibility being that the outcomes, if she's unable to achieve 2 or more of the outcomes for the local authority eligibility. So that would probably do 4 marks. I would think that's enough detail for 4 marks. Explain how our property may be considered. Well, they want a bit more here for 5 marks, don't they? So of course, this lady's only got 17,000 other than the property, and the property's being rented. So they're looking for the fact that she's just moved into care. So they're going to disregard the property for 12 weeks. And then they want a response, considered response about deferred payment agreement, I would suggest there for the 5 marks. So mention the financial assessment, the fact that the rent would be taken into account because the grandson and daughter-in-law are living in the property, so that rental income would be included. But I think probably the reasoning for this question is going to be more along the lines of the deferred payment agreement. Highlight that certainly. You won't have to go into, equity, interest. It will be enough for you to have a good understanding of the availability of a deferred payment agreement and the fact that they need to make that through the local authority. And of course, she would need to have an eligible care need first. So if the local authority bobs along next week and assesses her as being able to return home with care, then they wouldn't be looking at a deferred payment agreement for the residential setting. If she wants to stay there, of course, then we'd be looking at highlighting the need potentially for a regulated advisor to discuss products around how they can utilise that asset. So that's probably more than enough for that one. How may the overpayment of attendance allowance created? Well, probably a hospital stay, isn't it? She's probably been there for more than 28 days. And indeed, if continuing healthcare has been paid for the first 3 months, then that would also generate an overpayment because attendance allowances are payable while you're receiving CHC funding. Explain DOLS, deprivation of liberty safeguarding, and who would apply, and outline briefly the process. Well, that speaks for itself, doesn't it? Where do you go? Who applies for that? So you'd have to approach the local authority. It would be the care home that would do that, or the hospital where that person is living, and the process. So deprivation of liberty, it might be worth noting here also that deprivation of liberty safeguardings will be moving over probably April 2022 to the LIPS, the Liberty Protection Safeguards. But don't make too much of a big deal about this because we're running from April to April, so that the assessor will be looking April 21 to April 22 come next month. If you take it today, it will be April 20 to April 21, obviously. But I think really the idea of the last question is just to outline that you understand that there would be a need for an application towards the deprivation of liberty for somebody who's moving into a care home to make sure that they're living in the least restrictive option available to them, that they are, if they are not free to leave. I hope that's explained the 2 sections of the award. You'll get 2 of those case studies. So as I say, don't get wrapped up in the first one. And there are no benefit questions on there. I will be absolutely amazed if you pick 2 case studies that do not have benefit related questions. If you had a benefit related question to this lady, she's got 17,000 in the bank. They've told you she's on the lower rate of attendance allowance. She's moved now into a 24/7 residential, a specialist residential home. So we might be talking about dementia care, in which case you'd certainly be looking at an upgrade of the attendance allowance if she has any additional nighttime leads. And I would be also, of course, she's older, so we're looking at, does she have pension credit entitlement? Very briefly, she's got 17,000, so for pension credit, they're going to they will disregard the first 10, so they'll apply a tariff income to 7 of that. She's got a 4 weekly payment from the DWP of 670, but there doesn't say anything about a separate payment for the attendance allowance. So we have to presume that the attendance allowance is paid in with that state pension. as you know, as it is by default, unless you separate it out. So if you take attendance allowance out of that 4 weekly payment, even with the rental and her private pension, which is not very much at all, this lady's going to have a tiny bit of pension credit entitlement, which will mean even while she's receiving local authority funding. That said, of course, if she is receiving continuing healthcare funding and or is paid in part by the local authority, of course, her attendance allowance will stop. And so her pension credit would be affected. And it's likely that without a severe disability premium added to a calculation for pension credit, that she wouldn't have pension credit entitlement. So if a benefit question were in there, you would be expected not necessarily to do the maths, but certainly to understand the potential benefit entitlement and explain the effect of premiums on a means tested benefit and the effect of the disability related benefits, if you like, of passporting and overlapping on that benefit entitlement. But here you haven't been asked one of those, so that's fine. I just wanted to ask, I mean, has anybody got any questions? I can certainly, if you would like to, I would allow you to speak if you would like to ask questions, please, by all means, or put it into the question and answer box. Tina, you've got a question. I'll unmute. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, Tina, please.
Yeah, thanks for this. Can you tell me whether you can return to questions, or once you've completed them, you're not able to return?
Yes. Now I've said that.
Oh, sorry, I might have missed that at the beginning. I was late.
No, I didn't mean I've already said that in the covering the slides. I mean, having said that, now I've got to check whether that's actually correct. I'm fairly sure that you can go back, yes, if they are unanswered. I think once you've answered them, you can't change it.
Right.
But I will double check that, Tina, and I'll share these slides, and I will give you that. I'll email that to everyone. I'm fairly sure that you can skip questions in the multiple choice and then go back to them, because you have to submit if you want to, you know, for moving on to the next one. But I'll check that you can move on without submitting the last one.
Thank you, Nicola. That's great.
Any other questions from anyone? No? Oh, good. It'll all be a breeze then for you. I'm hoping I haven't overwhelmed anyone. The format seems fine? Just with regards to payment, actually, I'm surprised nobody's asked me about how do you pay for it. The Care Advisor Network members, the cost of the award itself, the online exam, is £275. Care Advisor Network members, that's included in your membership. So you will be provided automatically with access to that, to the award. As I say, go onto the site and have a little look round. There is a free funding care quiz that you can all do. It just gives you an idea of the types of questions and just a feel for the way that they're going to be asked, so that you're a bit more settled, you're not surprised by anything. So that's on the award platform. If you go onto the Care Advisor Network, there are links onto the award platform, but the exam itself can't be held in the Care Advisor Network website, so you will be taken onto a different platform for that. I can give you all access to that and send you your passwords if you would like. Your If you want to just take the award, pay and take it, then you can just do that online. So as soon as you've paid, it will give you an access and you will go straight in. And it's not until you press the actual begin button that your time starts. So you can have a little look round the website without worrying too much. But once you press start, you will be timed and you won't then be allowed to go back in if you come out. So please be clear that you need to put 3 hours aside, preferably without interruption, so that you can, you know, dedicate yourself to that. Is that okay, everyone? Has anybody got any other questions? By all means, if you think of anything, email me, or you know, somebody, if you email admin, somebody will respond. So yeah, please, by all means, fire in your questions, and I wish you all the luck. I hope you will take the award. It's not intended to be a level 1, a certificate level. We know that the syllabus is equivalent to the syllabus for HSC level 4 diploma for skills for care, and it's been audited by Ofqual, so we know it's a level 4 exam. It's not intended to be easy, but it's perfectly achievable with the experience that you will have. So please don't be put off by it. Anything I can do, if I can help, please by all means just ask. Okay, if there's no more questions, then I'll say thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day. I hope it's not too miserable where you are. It's pretty horrible here. But by all means, yeah, just bite the bullet, give yourself 3 hours and take it. If you wanted to be invoiced for it, if you just want to do the award and you don't want to become a member, that's absolutely fine. Just let me know and we can organise that too. So it's, you know, we're very flexible. It's however you want to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome everybody, and good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.